Hey guys, Ramble time. Um, so, with recent events, I've had a lot of feelings boil up in me, and I haven't been rambling as much here on YouTube because the feels, the feels are real. And a lot of it surrounds the way that the Wall Street bets thing with GameStop stock reminds me of Occupy Wall Street. And, you guys who have been with me for the last 10 years on my YouTube channel know how all that went. But I've had a lot of feelings about stagnant wages here in America and how hard I've worked to get myself up out of poverty, right? And there's a lot of that I don't want to talk about, but there is a little side story that I think is interesting. It's interesting enough to share with you guys. And it's a story about gatekeeping. Okay? So, gatekeeping, in a sense, is letting some people in and other people not. In 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 the context of the story that I'm going to tell you. And when I was in the Army, I was part of an elite unit. My military occupational specialty, my MOS, was 35 Hotel, which to my knowledge does not exist anymore. I was an electronics calibration technician, and the school that I went to learn this was it was on Keesler Air Force Base, and it had a very dismal graduation rate. In fact, when I got there, I saw some students graduate, and then I went a good 6 months before I saw the next graduation. And I had to go through 11 months there. Some people took 13 if they took vacation in the middle of it. The Army's got that nice 1 month of vacation time that they give you per year. But yeah, I wanted out of there because there was a lot of hazing, a lot of evil drill sergeants putting a lot of stress on us. And I was like, I want to get into the regular Army. So instead of spending any vacation time, I was like, can I get in on that next class and just forego some vacation plans because I just want to get out of here. But the dismal graduation rate of that specialty, when people failed out of my classes, they were put into things like, well, there was pluck and chuck, we called it, which was just computer repair. Take out a card, put in another one, poof, it's fixed. And then there's the worst case was I had a friend of mine who was reassigned into petroleum fuel truck driver, you know, and that sucked for him. Um, and it really did determine the course of his life later on. But there was gatekeeping going on with those drill sergeants. They felt like we were supposed to be the cream of the crop, and they pushed people to the point of breaking. And what was worse than not seeing anyone graduate for like 6 months was the whole time I was there, I think maybe two women graduated while I was there. There were a few in classes that were following me, but like it was bad. Um, Women joined the service and got into that training, and then found a way to get out. you know, some of them through injury, some of them through pregnancy, some of them through quitting, but it was bad. Um, and the gatekeeping to me seemed evil, very evil. One of my friends was actually failed on a test because when he returned his textbook, which he was allowed to use for the test, the instructor could see where he had pushed down with a pencil and written things and then erased them, but you could still read the impressions with the pencil on the paper because when he erased it, it still left like a mark that you could see. And so he had to be recycled back. Just really little petty things. And I hated that time of my life. Fast forward to around 2014, I decided to actually start using my degree in psychology and try to collect credentials so that I could work. And I chose addictions because it's where the work is to be done. I'm not saying that there's a lot of money in it, but I'm saying there's a lot of work to be done. So for my first credential, I had to pass the jurisprudence exam, which is the ethics in counseling equivalent to the bar exam for lawyers. Like, if there's a state where you don't have to go to law school, but you can just pass the bar exam and you can be a lawyer, it's the same thing in Colorado with psychotherapy. At that time, they had a credential called registered psychotherapist. It's now been changed to unlicensed psychotherapist because too many people tried to use it to do Reiki and crystal healing and things that were not evidence-based practices. But at the time, I grabbed that so that I could get my supervised hours while doing certain work for certain agencies. And so then I got that credential. Then I got 1,000 hours of supervised work and a whole bunch of classes. I believe it was like 10. And then I got CAC 1, which is now a different credential too. But then I had to do another 2,000 hours worth of supervised work. All of this work, by the way, at very low pay. Very, very low pay. You have to want it, right? So they're fighting now for $15 minimum wage, and I can see that there's restaurants that are hiring front end for $16 and chefs for $18. Well, my first jobs in addiction counseling, even in residential places, were 12, 13, 50, 14, 25. That's what I was making. And to think that somebody with a degree and is trying to gain credentials is going to make less money than someone working at Burger King. That hurts. The feels, okay? Like, there's a lot of very skilled labor that is not appreciated. And, anyways, when I got to CAC 3, it was another 2,000 hours. And 2,000 hours, by the way, is about how much time you would work if you had a full-time job and you worked 1 year, right? Don't take a lot of vacation, and you can work 2,000 clinically supervised hours. And a lot of different licenses and credentials require supervised work, right? But kind of like doctors in residency, you're paid less and you're forced to do the shit work, right? And for a lot of that time, I was working night shifts, which really does eat years off the end of your life and add gray to your hair. I don't recommend working night shift if you can get away with it, but I got some incredible shift differentials and ended up working night shift a lot. And I did it for the money because I was just trying to get up away from what is the prevailing minimum wage. Even if federally we don't have a $15 minimum wage yet, pretty much everywhere around my city doesn't pay any less than that because they know that they wouldn't get anyone to work those jobs. But for me, when I was working a little bit less than that, the supervised hours were worth their weight in gold because I was collecting credentials. Okay? So when I finally got to CAC 3, as an addiction counselor, there were a couple of different perks to it. One being that I could supervise the work of other addiction counselors and sign off for it for them, and another being that I can right now go out on my own and open my own agency to do substance abuse treatment. Right? I thought about it. I really did, and I'm so glad that I didn't start a business right before the pandemic blew up. You know, like I would have lost whatever business that I had started if I had decided to do that. I decided to continue pursuing more education credentials instead, and I'm so happy that I made that decision because I've lost a business in this decade, and I don't want to lose another one. And I feel like I dodged a bullet by making the decision that I did to not go out on my own and start my own business. Now, there's another part to this. In my addiction counselor training, especially the training that you get between CAC 2 and CAC 3, we are told specifically that we are supposed to be gatekeepers. That if somebody is not doing good work, that we're supposed to encourage them to perhaps seek another field. If we know that somebody is just not going to cut it in our field, we're supposed to look out for that. If somebody's working unethically, if somebody was only going to look to get the credentials so that they could, I don't know, flex and hit on the chicks, we're supposed to look out for that. If somebody was going to do Medicaid fraud, we're supposed to look out for that and keep those people out of our field. And if I were was the person signing off on somebody's supervised hours, and then that was the person who ended up, say, selling drugs to their clients or sleeping with their clients or anything like that, it's going to reflect badly on me because I signed off on their hours. See what I'm saying? So we're supposed to gatekeep for that. All of that I told you as context so I can get to this other part of the story. One of the credentials that I am missing, or was missing until this week, was a certain class whereby I am now allowed to teach people about the interlock device that they get mandated to have in their cars in order to get a restricted driver's license. Once they have a DUI, depending on the severity of the DUI and how many of them they've had, they're going to have a length of time where it's a hard restriction, no license for a couple months, and then they'll get a letter saying if you put an interlock device in a car and bring it, and show us the proof that you have it installed and all that, then we will allow you to have a restricted license. That's what the DMV will tell them. And then they have to take their DUI therapy courses, which is something I do as well. But also there is a specific therapy for just enhancing the efficacy of the interlock device. Now, this was a very rare training, okay? Super rare. I couldn't find it for years being offered. I finally found it being offered right after taking another curriculum class so that I could run a curriculum. And I'll be specific here. It was driving with care. And the person who wrote it had specific things that specific caveats written into the training as far as like who he wanted doing his training. And so he personally, the author of the whole curriculum, oversees the training of the people who are going to use his curriculum. Right? He's always like he's got other facilitators there doing the training, but he's there watching. Right? And this guy is super old, and he kind of looks like the professor from Futurama. That's how old he is. Like beyond Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, this guy is old. So I was taking the driving with care training, and I saw that the next week they were offering the interlock training. And I wanted to take it. And so I asked if I could. And I was told no, I could not, because one of the requirements for that training was that you had to, after becoming a registered psychotherapist, then getting CAC 1, then getting CAC 2, then getting CAC 3. You're now like 3-4 years into this process, right? After that, then you can get driving with care if you're CAC 3 so that you can, run the groups with that curriculum. Then he wanted people to use his curriculum for at least a year of experience running DUI groups before he would allow people into the interlock enhancement course, right? And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I finally find this weird rare class, and it's one of like I've been collecting these trainings like Pokemon cards. I've got almost all of them, right? I was like, what is going on? And then I found a very weird regulation that said that in order for someone to start their own DUI therapy agency, somebody who works there must have the interlock enhancement driving course. Like, somebody there has to be able to do that special therapy. So, like, one person on the staff, it could be the person who owns the place, but it could be just that they're, they've got someone on staff. But if they don't have that, then they're not going to be approved by OBH for a site license to get the right to give therapy to people. So this one class, this rare class, was actually a very important thing, and the reason why they don't let just anyone have it is because they snuck a little rule in there, in the regulations, that basically gives a monopoly to the existing agencies that are out there, because it takes so much work to get these credentials and then get these extra little classes that they don't offer to just anyone because they're gatekeeping, right? So then, the guy who did these trainings, after that one offering of that rare class that he wouldn't let me into, he retired. And he passed the trainings off onto another agency that is taking over the reins. So I watched that agency, and they just never offered this course. And I watched, and then the pandemic happened. And so I had already had a year of experience doing DUI therapy, and running these groups for agencies as a hired gun. I already had a year of experience doing it. But when I had that year, the class was no longer being offered, and then the pandemic hit. And how do you run these trainings where there's a lot of in-person interaction and whatnot, because they want to see that you can be a good counselor because they're gatekeeping? Well, finally, they just caved in, and just like everywhere else, they did it on Zoom, or in this case, I think it was Google Meet. And yeah, I got the training. I saw that it was being offered. I signed up for it, took it last Tuesday. During that training, which I was very grateful to get, they had a few people join the call and give a little presentation. One of them was actually like the head of the DMV in Colorado as far as the interlock device. He was like very high ranking, and he gave us a lot of good information off of PowerPoint. But another guy, he was straight from the Office of Behavioral Health, like the entity that runs the entire state's behavioral health agencies, make sure they're compliant and everything. And he asked if anyone had any questions, right? And there was a bit of a silence, and then I decided to ask questions that were on my mind because he's there, and I was like, well, this is a little off topic, but, after someone has 4 DUIs, they go to this level 2, 4 plus scenario where they have to do therapy with a licensed clinician that, has credentials that I'm currently working to get, but they have to get it from an approved level 2, 4 plus provider, right? And I said, is there anywhere that I can see the requirements to be able to become a level 2, 4 plus provider once I get these other licenses that I'm working towards? The answer that I got back was, the real question you should be asking is, do you really want to be a level 2, 4 plus provider? Because we don't just give that designation to anybody. And after all I've been through, I still kept my cool, but that was some bullshit. There is a shortage of therapists in general in the whole country. There is a shortage of addiction counselors in particular. And the amount of gatekeeping that they're doing is really restricting what people can do in our field and who can be in our field, to the point where when I get on a job and they're short-staffed all the time, like it's not even like a new thing to anyone there. They're all just kind of used to working short-staffed, and you never hear of all the positions being full all at one time because they can't hold on to people. Burnout is real, and one of the reasons people are burning out is because they're doing too much goddamn work because there's not enough people to do the work, right? When you've got a pandemic that has raised the rates of alcoholism and drug abuse and suicide, and you've got people still gatekeeping, where it's not about, well, I'll just come out and say it, it's not about whether or not somebody is a good therapist. They're gatekeeping to keep the status quo. Like, seriously. The reason why some people might want to become a level 2, 4 plus provider for DUI therapy is because those people who have more than 4 DUIs get assigned a mandate of 180 hours of therapy. Minimum. Right? Therapy, be it addictions or any other type of therapy, family therapy, whatnot, anxiety, depression, all those problems. Therapy could be looked at as a business. For many providers, they have to work to get clients to come in, and then, they have to sometimes let those clients go when they don't have a problem anymore. To have somebody assigned 180 hours of therapy means if they're getting 2-hour sessions, that's 90 sessions that you're going to have with them. That's going to take 2 years of having a solid client. That's why a lot of people would want that designation. It's because it's a money-making racket. And when there's so much gatekeeping like this, like propping up this monopoly on who can do the treatment, it's hard for me to defend it when my clients say, they want $30 a week for me to do this DUI therapy. They want $15 a week for me to do the UA. They want, $75 for me to take the Mothers Against Drunk Driving video seminar. They want $300 a month for me to wear this ankle monitor. They want this, they want that. I have to pay for Uber to get where I'm going because I don't have a car anymore. They want a $90 reinstatement fee at the DMV. Basically, everywhere they turn, they want, for my community service, they want $150 just so they can sit there and collect a fax from the place that I did the community service, or else I can't finish my community service and then get off paper. Everywhere they turn, they are getting nickel and dimed. And when they turn to me and say, in the middle of therapy, they say to me, I like you, Mike, but this is a racket. And I'm getting bled dry of money. It's hard for me to defend it. Especially when I see the structure of how they decide to give the ability to give these mandated clients therapy to just certain agencies and certain individuals. And so when I see little uprisings of people trying to buy GameStop stock, and it's little 1-2 stocks, they don't have that much money, but they're trying to stick it to the man because they're pissed off about their station in life, because it's really hard to climb the ladder. It's really hard to feel like you have social mobility in our country. When I see that there's little movements like that, it evokes feelings in me that, like, yeah, I fucking know. I've worked hard to get where I am. I continue to work hard, and still I face gatekeeping. When those GameStop investors that they wanted to buy a share of GameStop, and Robinhood decided, no, you can't today. they felt gatekept and gate kept. Anyways, I felt for them. You know, something in the system jumped up to tell them, fuck no, know your role, stay in your lane. We'll tell you when you can make money. The feels.